For 8 relentless years, I lived on the fringes of my own family, uninvited, unacknowledged, a shadow cast aside while they gathered beneath the warm glow of my mother's approval. That ache could have broken me. Instead, I let it sharpen me. I built something no one could ignore, a luxury seaside resort carved from silence and sheer will. Became my haven, my answer to everything they denied me. So when my mother called with her usual hollow excuse, I didn't flinch. "That's funny, Mother," I said calmly. "My resort's fully booked too. No room, just like your villa." I'm Isabella Moretti. This is my story. If you're still listening, we want to sincerely thank you for spending your time with us. Truly means a lot. We'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and let's see how far this message has reached. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I highly recommend doing it now so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. These aren't just ordinary stories, they're filled with meaningful life lessons that can inspire, teach, and stay with you long after the video ends. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. I'm a 38-year-old interior designer, running a boutique firm tucked away in a quiet street near the Arno River in Florence. My office is small but elegant. Sunlight filters through lace curtains onto samples of marble, velvet swatches, and sketches pinned neatly on corkboards. I built everything from the ground up with no shortcuts and no handouts. Every client, every contract, every sleepless night, it was mine alone. My sister, Sofia, is 35. She lives just outside Milan with her husband, Luca, a mid-level banker with a smug smile and a taste for expensive watches. They have 4 children, Matteo, 12, who's already inherited his father's arrogance, Giulia, 10, precocious and quick to judge, Lorenzo, 8, endlessly energetic, and little Amelia, 6, who still has that wide-eyed innocence the others lost too soon. On paper, they are the picture of a perfect family. And my mother, Beatrice, eats it up. Beatrice is 62 now, a retired art curator who still dresses like she's running a gallery in the heart of Rome. Silk scarves, oversized sunglasses, and that air of cultured indifference. She was once brilliant, commanding exhibitions, restoring masterpieces, but as the years wore on, she traded curation for control. And when it came to her daughters, she made her preference crystal clear. I was never the chosen one. For nearly a decade, our family had a tradition, a 2-week summer retreat at Beatrice's villa perched above the Amalfi coast. It's an old stone estate with soft lemon trees curling around the iron gates, 5 spacious bedrooms, 4 tiled bathrooms, and a sweeping terrace that opens to the turquoise sea. The scent of salt and citrus clings to everything there. It's a postcard come to life. Plenty of room for a family, one might think. And yet, every March, like clockwork, Beatrice would call with the same tired script, her voice clipped with forced regret. "Isabella, darling, I'm so sorry, but the villa's just too small this year. Sofia's family needs the space, with all those children. Perhaps next summer?" Each time, I'd bite my tongue and listen to the same excuse recycled as if it were freshly minted. As if I couldn't do the math, 5 bedrooms, 4 children, 2 adults. There was room. She just didn't want us there. Meanwhile, Sofia's arrival was a spectacle. Beatrice would spend weeks preparing the villa for them, as if Sofia were royalty and she the loyal servant. She'd stock the pantry with Sofia's favorite Prosecco and order fresh figs from a market 2 towns over. Handmade pastas, sun-dried tomatoes, beach toys for the kids, new umbrellas embroidered with their initials. It was as if the entire coastline existed for Sofia's comfort. And as the red carpet unfurled for them, my own children, Alessandro and Chiara, would sit across from me at our kitchen table in Florence, eyes wide and full of questions. "Why can't we go to Nonna's too?" Chiara asked one summer, her small hands folded on the tabletop. Alessandro chimed in. "Giulia says they're swimming every day and having lemon gelato after dinner." What was I supposed to say? That their grandmother didn't think they mattered enough to make space for them? That the same woman who once rocked me to sleep could now so easily shut me out and by extension them? I smiled. I always smiled. I told them we'd go somewhere even better. I booked rooms in small coastal towns no one could pronounce, tried to match the magic of Amalfi with cobblestone charm and local ice cream shops. I made it work because I had no other choice. But inside it stung. Year after year, I watched from the sidelines as Beatrice poured every ounce of affection into Sofia's family while treating mine as a footnote. It wasn't just about a missed vacation. It was the slow erosion of worth, 8 years of being reminded that I was never enough. Sofia married Luca, her university sweetheart, just weeks after graduation. It was a wedding Beatrice planned with obsessive attention to detail, from the lace imported from Bruges to the antique candelabras borrowed from her old museum connections. That was the start of what she called their golden chapter. Sofia slipped comfortably into a life of routine privilege, a spacious home for children in fast succession, and a husband with a respectable, if unremarkable, job in banking. Somehow, that was enough to make them the crown jewel of our mother's affection. Luca's job was steady but nothing spectacular. He managed regional accounts, shuffled numbers, and attended the occasional client dinner. But in Beatrice's narrative, they were icons of success, a model family. The children's school plays, Luca's quarterly reviews, Sofia's homemade tiramisu, they were celebrated as milestones, proof of a life well lived. And me? I'd clawed my way out of a marriage that ended in betrayal and silence. I rebuilt myself from scratch, mother first, designer second, always balancing both with no safety net. I founded my interior design firm from a second-hand desk in my tiny apartment. I worked 14-hour days, meeting clients during school hours, sketching long into the night, my back aching, my eyes red. I networked, pitched, negotiated. I chased every lead, every project. I carried Alessandro and Chiara through the storm, never letting them see me falter. But to Beatrice, it wasn't enough. Because I worked from home, she assumed I wasn't really working. She'd wave her hand dismissively when I spoke about deadlines or budgets, her expression soft with faux concern. "Isabella's still finding her path," she'd say at family dinners, tilting her wine glass as if it was a toast to my eternal indecision. Sofia would chime in, her voice laced with false sweetness. "Must be lovely to have such a flexible life, Isabella. I can never handle the uncertainty of freelance work." They said it with smiles, polished, practiced. But underneath was the familiar sting of dismissal. To them, my work was a hobby, a cute little passion project. They couldn't or wouldn't see the sacrifice behind it. The villa exclusion was the most blatant, unforgivable proof of where I stood. Every summer, Sofia's Instagram turned into a digital shrine to their Amalfi holiday. I watched from my phone as Matteo and Giulia built sandcastles on sun-drenched beaches, Luca posed by the grill with skewers of swordfish, and Sofia reclined on the terrace, spritz in hand, her sun hat perfectly angled. Beatrice always appeared in the background, smiling, hosting, belonging. Meanwhile, Alessandro, Chiara, and I created our own makeshift summers. We had day trips to the lake outside Florence, picnic lunches by the river, movie nights with popcorn and homemade lemonade. I tried to make it magical, but I couldn't ignore their questions. "Why don't we go to Nana's too? Does she not like us?" Last summer, something inside me shifted. I wasn't angry anymore, I was done. Just weeks before the family left for the villa, I signed a major contract. A luxury hotel chain had chosen me to redesign the interiors of 5 of their flagship properties. It was a €500,000 deal. Not just career-defining, life-changing. For the first time in years, I felt validated. Seen. I shared the news at Beatrice's birthday dinner in June, hopeful for something resembling pride. Beatrice dabbed at her lips with a linen napkin and said, "That's nice, dear. Maybe now you can find something more secure." Secure. The word rang in my ears, hollow and cruel. Sofia didn't miss a beat. She leaned across the table, her smile syrupy and condescending. "Oh, Isabella, still playing with your sketches?" That's cute, but it's not exactly a career, is it? I smiled. But it wasn't out of politeness, it was the kind that comes right before the storm. I bit my tongue just like I had for years. The sharp taste of restraint was familiar by now, metallic and bitter. I sat there at the long dinner table, surrounded by half-sipped wine glasses and forced smiles, letting their words settle like dust. I didn't flinch, didn't fight. Not there. Not then. But later that evening, as Beatrice pulled me aside for her annual speech, the predictable rejection wrapped in performative regret, Sofia stepped in to twist the knife with the precision of someone who'd practiced the gesture 1,000 times. "You know, Isabella," she said, her voice raised just enough for nearby relatives to hear, "if you had a proper job, maybe you could afford your own holiday. It's not really fair to expect us to give up our family time just because you're still figuring things out." Beatrice nodded in solemn agreement, her hands folded like a judge delivering a sentence. "Sophia's right, darling. Luca works so hard and the children deserve their holiday. You understand, don't you?" I smiled tightly, nodding as expected. "Of course. I understand. Enjoy yourselves." But inside, something settled with finality. A silence. Cold absolute. I was done, utterly, irrevocably done. That hotel contract, the one they'd laughed off, was only the beginning. Within weeks, word spread. My design was praised in a prominent magazine. New clients came without me having to chase them. By autumn, I was turning away projects, raising my rates, and curating my own portfolio. I hired a small team, 3 brilliant young designers who believed in my vision. My name was quietly circulating in the luxury circles that Sofia and Beatrice knew nothing about. By December, I had 3 more contracts under my belt: a boutique hotel in Umbria, a contemporary wing for a private museum in Milan, and a vineyard estate in Chianti looking to reinvent itself. The fees were generous, the acclaim growing. Till I said little. I drove my battered Fiat through Florence's cobbled streets, wore my usual tailored but muted clothes, and lived in our modest 3rd-floor apartment. I let them think I was still Isabella the dreamer, too uncertain, too artistic to ever be taken seriously. But I had a plan. In March, just as Beatrice's annual rejection call loomed on the horizon, I made my move. I found a crumbling old resort on the Tuscan coast, 2 hours from Beatrice's beloved Amalfi villa. The bones of the place were strong: 15 rooms, a worn-out restaurant, and a private beach with golden sand that caught the sun like it was spun from gold. Property had been neglected for years, slowly fading beneath salt air and bad management. I bought it for a fraction of its worth. I hired a seasoned management company, pulled architectural plans myself, and invested 300,000 euros of my earnings into a full-scale renovation. Every detail mattered. I chose marble that gleamed like water under moonlight, commissioned bespoke furniture that married elegance with comfort, redesigned the restaurant with local stone, warm wood, and ocean views. And for the children, I built something magical: a shaded, sea-facing adventure park, complete with rope bridges, climbing walls, and splash fountains. No corner was left untouched. By May, Villa Serenita was reborn. A jewel on the Mediterranean. The kind of place travel bloggers raved about and families returned to year after year. Our soft opening in June was flawless, every room booked, every guest enchanted. 5-star reviews flooded in within the first week. I walked the grounds barefoot that night, breathing in the scent of lavender and salt, listening to Alessandro and Chiara laugh on the patio. For the first time in years, I felt peace. Then, in late June, the phone rang. Beatrice. Her tone was light, casual, as if the last decade of excuses hadn't happened. "Isabella, darling, I wanted to call before we leave for Amalfi." "I'm afraid." I didn't let her finish. "No need to explain, Mother," I said, my voice calm, cool. "Alessandro, Chiara, and I have plans this year." She paused, caught off guard. "Oh? Where are you going?" "Just a little place I found," I replied breezily. "Nothing fancy. But we're really looking forward to it." There was silence on the other end. A flicker of confusion, perhaps even suspicion. But I didn't elaborate. I let the mystery settle. Let her wonder. I hung up, then returned to the terrace, where the sun was melting into the sea and my children were roasting marshmallows over the fire pit, their faces glowing with laughter and golden light. This time, we weren't making do. We were home. And I hadn't waited for an invitation, I'd built my own. That July, I took Alessandro and Chiara to Villa Serenita for the first time. We stayed in the grandest suite, a two-bedroom haven nestled above the resort's main terrace, with vaulted ceilings, soft linen curtains, and a private balcony that offered an uninterrupted view of the sea. The Mediterranean shimmered below us like a living painting, the scent of salt and citrus drifting through the open doors. Chiara gasped the moment she walked in. Her eyes widened as she darted from room to room, her curls bouncing. "Mama, is this really ours? 2 whole weeks?" "Yes, darling," I said, crouching beside her, my voice full and warm. 2 weeks just for us. Alessandro didn't say much, but I caught the way he stood a little taller when he saw the surfboards lined up on the beach, the pride in his eyes when a staff member addressed him as Signor Alessandro. For once, he wasn't the child left behind, he was the guest of honor. We filled our days with joy. Mornings began with breakfast on the terrace, fresh pastries, ripe peaches, and espresso for me, cocoa for them. We swam in the pool until our skin wrinkled, sailed into the open sea on breezy afternoons, and dined at the resort's restaurant, where the chef prepared fresh lobster and handmade ravioli. Alessandro tried surfing for the first time, catching waves with stubborn determination. Chiara begged to join the kids' cooking classes, returning with flour in her hair and stories tumbling from her mouth. It was the kind of holiday I had never been able to give them before. Kind where time softened, where every hour held laughter, discovery, and rest. I watched them bloom in the sunlight, their happiness so pure it made my chest ache. Every sacrifice, every dismissal, every tight-lipped smile I'd forced for years, it all led here. And it was worth it. But the true victory came in August. As Ferragosto approached, I began making calls. First, I called my Uncle Antonio and his wife, Clara, Beatrice's brother, and one of the few relatives who had always treated my children with warmth and equality. They had 3 teenagers who adored Alessandro and Chiara, and I knew they'd be thrilled. "Isabella," Antonio said, his voice stunned. "A weekend at your resort? All expenses paid?" "I insist," I replied gently. "You've always been there for us." Next came my cousin Marco, a high school teacher barely scraping by on a meager salary, and his wife Elena, who had recently lost her job at a local library. I invited them without hesitation. Then I called my father's sister, Aunt Rosa, a retired nurse with kind eyes, and her husband, who'd suffered a stroke 2 years ago. I didn't stop there. I reached out to my second cousins, the Rossi family, 5 in total, who had always been warm and supportive despite their own financial struggles. I remembered the way they used to slip chocolate bars into Alessandro's pockets during Christmas visits, how they hugged Chiara like she belonged. They didn't ask questions or whisper judgments. They simply loved. In total, I invited 25 relatives to spend the Ferragosto weekend at Villa Serenita. I booked every room. I hired a Michelin-starred chef to craft a menu that celebrated local flavors, truffle risotto, seafood stew, fig tarts. I arranged yacht excursions along the coast, wine tastings from neighboring vineyards, and a treasure hunt for the children through the olive groves behind the resort. Beatrice and Sofia were not invited. The weekend unfolded like a dream. The resort sparkled under the August sun, its marble floors glowing, bougainvilleas spilling over balconies like fireworks. Music played softly in the background as relatives arrived, their eyes wide with wonder. Laughter echoed through the corridors, and the scent of rosemary and grilled fish drifted from the kitchen. Clara stood by the pool with a chilled glass of rose, watching the children splash in the water. "Isabella," she said, eyes shining, "this is extraordinary. How did you pull this off?" I smiled, shielding my eyes from the sun. A good year, that's all. On Saturday night, we gathered for dinner beneath the string lights on the terrace. Plates clinked, glasses were raised, and the sunset bathed everything in gold. After dessert, Antonio pulled me aside. "Your mother must be so proud," he said, his voice kind. I shook my head slowly. "She doesn't know. I didn't invite her. Or Sofia." His brow furrowed. "Why not?" I held his gaze steady and calm. "For 8 years, they told me there was no room at the villa for me and my children. This is my gathering, Antonio. And there's no room for them." He didn't speak right away. He simply nodded, his eyes dark with understanding. There was no malice in my voice, no anger left to burn. Just truth finally spoken in full. That night, as the fireworks from a nearby town flared across the horizon, Chiara fell asleep in my arms, her face sticky with gelato, her breath slow and even. Alessandro stood beside me, hands in his pockets, watching the lights. "Best summer ever," he whispered. And I knew he meant it. Truth rippled through the family like a wave crashing against stone. Though no one said it outright at the Ferragosto gathering, many had heard Beatrice's tired excuses over the years. Some had witnessed Sofia's veiled digs, her polite cruelty disguised as concern. And some, Antonio, Clara, Aunt Rosa, had quietly wondered why I was never there. But no one had confronted it. Not until now. On Monday morning, as the last guests packed their bags and hugged my children goodbye, my phone rang. "Beatrice." "Isabella," she snapped, her voice sharp with disbelief. "Antonio just called with some absurd story about you owning a resort. That's impossible." "It's true, Mother," I replied calmly. "But how? You don't have that kind of money." "Apparently I do." There was a long, stunned pause. "Why didn't you invite us? We're family." I let the silence stretch before answering. "Funny, you only remember that when it suits you. You said there wasn't room at your villa. I'm saying there's no room at my resort." She hung up without another word. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. "Sofia." Her voice shook with rage. "What's wrong with you?" Mother's in tears. She feels completely humiliated. "How could you exclude us like this?" "Like you excluded me for 8 years?" I shot back, my tone razor sharp. "The villa wasn't big enough, remember?" "That's different." "It really wasn't. And my resort really isn't big enough either. Funny how that works. This is petty, Isabella. You're better than this." "No, Sofia," I said, cold and clear. "I'm exactly this. I'm done being the family failure while you act like your life is superior. I'm done watching my children feel unwanted." She sputtered something unintelligible and hung up. The aftermath was intense. Beatrice began calling daily, her voice careening between tears and fury. One day she'd plead, the next she'd accuse. "I raised you better than this," she'd cry. "No," I answered every time. "You raised me to accept less than I deserve. I'm done with that." Sofia turned to gossip, whispering to anyone who would listen that I was cruel, that I was hurting her innocent children. But those who had joined us at Villa Serenita knew the truth. They'd seen the joy in my children's eyes. They'd heard the silence where snide remarks once lived. Antonio didn't stay quiet. He called Beatrice directly. "You've treated Isabella like she's second-rate for years, Evelyn," he said. "She's built something extraordinary and shared it with people who love her." Clara added her voice too. Sofia's comments about Isabella's work were cruel. She has every right to celebrate her success with those who've supported her. Meanwhile, Villa Serenita thrived. That Ferragosto weekend triggered a surge of interest. Word spread quickly, and by autumn the resort was booked through the next spring. I expanded my firm into a full-service agency, hiring architects, landscape designers, and a project manager. By November, we had 10 employees and 3 new contracts underway. Alessandro and Chiara changed too. They walked taller, laughed more. Alessandro joined a local sailing club. Chiara started a sketchbook filled with hotel rooms she designed for fun. They made friends easily and stopped asking why they couldn't go to Nana's villa. They knew where they were wanted now. Thanksgiving loomed, a holiday Beatrice always hosted at her Florence home. She called in early November. "Isabella, please come to dinner. Family should be together. Will there be room for us, Mother?" I asked. "Your table seats 8. Sofia's family is 6, plus you and Father. Where do Alessandro, Chiara, and I fit?" "We'll manage," she said vaguely. "Like we always do, my children on folding chairs in the kitchen?" "No, thank you." Instead, I hosted my own celebration at Villa Serenita. Antonio and Clara came. So did Rosa and the Rossi family. The chef served roasted duck, chestnut soup, and tiramisu. Children played tag under the stars while the adults sat by the fire pit, sipping grappa and telling stories. It was warm, real. In December, Beatrice tried again. "What if we had Christmas at your resort?" she suggested. "It'd be lovely for everyone to see it." "It's booked solid, Mother," I replied. "But surely you can make an exception for family." "I could," I said, "for family that treats me like family." She hung up. We spent Christmas at Villa Serenita, 25 of us. The chef prepared a feast. We exchanged gifts under twinkling lights, toasted with Prosecco, and watched fireworks light up the sea. There were no pitying glances, no snide remarks, no hierarchy. Just love. On New Year's Day, Beatrice called again. "What will it take to fix this?" she asked, her voice weary. "Admit you favored Sofia. Apologize to my children for making them feel unwanted." "I did what was best for the family," she said. "Then we're done here." I ended the call with a calm I hadn't known I was capable of. I was done shrinking. 3 years passed. Villa Serenita became a sensation, booked solid year-round. I purchased a second property, Monte Vista Lodge, a 20-room retreat in the Dolomites with a world-class spa and panoramic mountain views. My design firm grew to 15 people, our clients spread across Europe. Alessandro, now 11, talks about starting his own hotel brand one day. Chiara, 9, shadows me during project meetings, sketchbook in hand, offering suggestions on color palettes and fabrics. They are confident, joyful, and grounded. They know their worth. Beatrice and I have had cautious conversations. She doesn't apologize outright, but she's quieter now, humbled. Sofia surprised me last spring. She sent a handwritten apology, admitting her jealousy, confessing how stifling her perfect life had become. They visited Villa Serenita last summer. As paying guests, it was fine. Polite. No passive-aggressive remarks, no entitlement. Just mutual respect. I kept my boundaries. I'd forgiven, but I hadn't forgotten. Our family dynamic has shifted. I am no longer the outsider. I employ over 50 people, support local charities, mentor young designers. I create places where people feel welcomed, seen, celebrated. Some people call what I did petty. I call it justice. After 8 years of hearing, "There's no room," I stopped asking for a seat. I built my own table, one that now seats 96 across 2 resorts. The best revenge isn't vengeance. It's joy, success. It's the quiet power of being unshakably yourself. And when they try to shut the door again, you smile, turn away, and build an empire. Here are 5 heartfelt lessons I've learned through this journey, and I hope they resonate with you too. 1. You are not obligated to shrink for anyone's comfort. For years, I allowed my mother and sister to define my worth by their limited expectations. But the moment I stopped seeking their approval, I found my own voice, and it was stronger than I imagined. Success doesn't always look like what others celebrate. A steady banking job may look more respectable on the outside, but building something from the ground up on your own terms is a different kind of triumph. One that doesn't need their applause to matter. 3. Protect your peace, even from family. Sometimes the people who wound us most hide behind the mask of family. It's okay to draw a boundary, even if it means leaving some names off the guest list. 4. Choose connection over tradition. I stopped chasing a seat at their table and built a new one, surrounded by people who truly cared. And that changed everything. 5. Your children are watching. What they see isn't just how you work, but how you rise, how you stand firm, how you love yourself. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories about strength, self-worth, and choosing joy on your terms.